down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
What up, what up, what up? This is the Savvy Landlord. This is your boy, VanCauwenbergh. That was weak. That's like the E.T. ghetto version. Anyway, my name is Steve VanCauwenbergh. You tuned in to the Savvy Radio Show. Hopefully this is going to be a good episode for you. Why? Because I think property management is one of the biggest deal breakers, mistakes a lot of real estate investors do. Now, if you know my background, I love to manage property. Maybe I'm old school. Maybe I'm blue collar. That's probably the truth. But you need, depending on, I like to be down and dirty, get into the asset. But there's some people out there you should start off with not managing property yourself. You may not have the tenacity. You may not have the time. You may not have the ovaries, whatever you need or don't have. But no matter what you should do, when you're buying an asset, you should factor in a percentage, an AKA 10%, of hiring a property manager, meaning your banker or your financial statement, someone's looking at you and they're factoring that in without you. So if you're going to be savvy, if you're going to be a real estate investor, whatever you're going to do in this game, you wouldn't even be tuned into the radio show if you were not. Factor in management. One day you should check out and let a property manager do the dirty work. Now, selecting a property manager, I think, is I don't know. We're doing a landlord lunch next month in July on it. It's going to be a juicy episode. I know the room's going to be stupid packed because people call me all the time about property management. And just some sad points. I've seen people go down in flames in this thing called bankruptcy because a property manager robbed them. Wow. That's right. I'm going to hit you one more time. Wow. Yep. Property managers are scandalous. Are they all scandalous? No. Are all realtors scandalous? Maybe. Nah, I'm just playing. But the point is, you need to do your due diligence. I called a real estate investor, my boy in Springfield, the other day, and he was sad. He said he's selling out. I'm like, dude, selling out? What you mean? I'm selling all my St. Louis properties. Why? Property management. He's in Springfield. His units are in St. Louis. He's got about 14, 15 units, and he's not making money. And he realizes that property management for him is a problem. I'm like, dude, can't you find another property manager? Can't you make this work? How can we make this work? These are assets. Why would you sell them? Right, for real. Like, that's a question you're going to call me up. And that's probably why people don't call me. That's why people don't text me, because I'm like, you should be buying assets. You shouldn't be doing that. You should not be selling them unless they make sense, unless you're going to take that money, like my boy Ivan sold his 12 units and started buying apartments. Good job, homie. But the point is, he said he just didn't have time, and he's been getting jacked, and it was just more work to manage the manager. And maybe you didn't interview them first. Now, this is my homie, man. He's real, like, way more tighter than I am. So I know he interviewed it, but I think his heart just changed. I think when you get burned so many times, and I'm telling you, I'm in a deal right now where I saw some stuff go down in my eyes on financials. It's just scandalous. Now, let's just talk about how can you be scandalous. Here's a couple quick things. Number one, here's one that's just big time that I just learned. Wow. I'm going to get juicy. So this property manager, I acquired this asset, and this property manager calls me up one day and says, we're going to refund the tenant their deposit. I said, whoa, wait a minute. Let me go look at the property. So I look at the property, and I take about 30 pictures. There's a hole in the middle of the linoleum floor in the kitchen. The carpet is tore up. There's dog scratches everywhere. Thing needs to be painted. Smells like piss. It's just trash everywhere. It was just like, it wasn't bad. Like, these people were pretty clean people to the average. But give them the deposit back, and I kind of bucked this dude. This property manager was like, no, dude, something's not right. Oh, well, This is you know, and I already started working on the property, but I had the photos. Rule number 1, you take your own photos. So I was like, bro, he says, yeah, we're going to do a make ready for $268. I almost fell out of my chair. What in the world can you do a make ready for $268? I started getting, my voice started escalating on the phone with this joker. I was like, bro, property manager, tell me what you're going to do to make this house. I got the photos. That's going to be make ready at $268. I got the emails to prove this, folks. I can't make this mother up. And so he it's my fiduciary. This is what this punk told me. This is my fiduciary blank blank. I need to give these people the deposit back. I said, hold up, man. Let me send you some invoices and some bids that I've already received, because I'm going to trap this mother. And I have to the tune of 3 G's of a make ready. These people ruined the carpet, pissed everywhere, dog chewed on everything, holes everywhere. Come on, man. What I found out, what some savvy other investor told me when I told them the story, it broke me. And what this other real estate investor told me, they said, Steven, they're keeping the deposit. And I said, what do you mean? It's illegal. No. This is what they do. They tell the owner, me, the property owner, that they're going to refund the deposit. So they charge you $268 for the deposit. For the make ready, fake make ready. They tell the tenant with the show of the pictures that they got burned, that you ruined the property, and you do not get your deposit back, and they keep the money. Wow. Man, that hit me hard, right? And that got me juicy, and that's why I'm on this podcast today. That's why the Landlord Lunch is coming up. How to hire a property manager. Now, listen, before you hire somebody, how do people make money? How does a property manager make money? That's a question that you should ask yourself. Well, they make a percentage on the gross rents that they bring in. Now, we can get into this deep if you want me to go deep with you. If you do, you need to let your boy know. Text me, email me, Facebook me, because we can go real deep on the property management. And on July 19th, 2017, Oklahoma City, we're going to go deep in this deal. But we're going to keep it broad strokes. Number 1, how else do they make money? Well, they make money, number 1, on what? On the gross rent commission. Some people charge 7, some people charge 12, some people charge 5. Depends on your size and what type of work you want to do. But just to say it's a percentage. Now, some majority of these property managers charge a percentage for repairs. Some savvy, wonderful property managers, and I know some of them, I can't wait for you to listen to this, because they do the service for you. Like, you got a repair that needs to be done. Let's say, for an example, there is a blown out toilet and you need to get it snaked. That property manager calls a local snake company or a plumber company. They send Joker Plumber out there. Joker Plumber says it's $120. Damn, $120 to clean out some two poopies. And that property manager, savvy property manager, charges a fee for that process. Okay. Some rookie property managers don't charge a fee. Now, where does this get scandalous? Well, how does this get scandalous? Some property managers have a side company called the Construction Ripoff Company, and they go install a new door for you for $400. It costs them $30 to get, or I'm just joking, $100 to get that door installed. Let's just say let's just say $200, Home Depot price, $200 to get a door installed, and they're making $200 on the markup. Okay, so that's one way some sketchy property managers make money. Another sketchy way is that they force people to use specific companies that they work with exclusively, and they get kickbacks from that company. Now, I think that these, it's a free capitalist country. You just need to be aware of how this guy driving around in a Range Rover managing 10 properties, how's he living large? Because he's scamming people. I'm just playing. I'm just getting a little juicy. But you need to pay attention to how the people make money and how you can be taken advantage of. Now, there's some massive positives about property management. One, you buy an asset, and some legitimate property managers, they do the whole thing for you, cut dry. They take the rent, they mail your payment for you to your institution, bank institution, your payment, your mortgage company, and then they cut you a check. They do all the work for you. There's some full service property managers. There's all kinds, all sizes property management companies. Know who you're dealing with. Do your due diligence like buying that asset. Man, there's so many horror stories. I should do a whole book on horror stories for property management. Property management company holding landlords as hostages. For real. That has gone down. Here's a couple quick tips. This is just right off the top of the tippity top here. Go to your county courthouse on demand and Google up that property management company, or do a search and see how many times they have sued people. That could be a positive, suing tenants to evict them. But then how many times have they been sued, and have they been sued from another landlord? And that may be one of the questions that you might want to ask casually. And depending on the conversation that you're going to have, I'm going to go over some questions that you should ask in the interview process. But think about it. And I know a property management company that has been sued by several people on property management services. So, if you look up my company, my holding company, have I sued people? Absolutely. People don't pay their rent. Just like Chili's, homie. You can't go to Chili's, get a cheeseburger, and say, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot my wallet. I'll be back tomorrow. That's theft. If you can't move into the crib, sleep there, and not pay your electricity bill, rent, if you don't pay your rent, in my mind, it's like stealing. That's probably why you don't like me, but that's all good. So let's get into the questions. Number one, how many rentals do you manage? This will help you, gauge if the guy's starting out, if he's huge. I met this property manager yesterday. Man, this is probably the first one that I found in a long time that knows what they're doing. And number one question I ask, how many units? And I say units. I don't say rental properties. How many units do you manage? And they said 600. And they were so effing anal detailed. I bought the property from them. They were making me sign disclosures, and they were protecting their investor. Fabulous. There you go. Tip for your property, for you property managers out there. When you sell a property for a real estate investor, and AKA you're probably a broker or an agent, make sure you have all your disclosures. I mean, I've bought several properties from other investors and property management companies that represent them, never had disclosures before. Fascinating. And they were genuine. A rule of thumb that they should be managing at least 100 units, okay? I think, depending on your level of service, so that's the number one question you should ask. How many units do you manage? Another savvy question, how do you set the rent prices? Yeah, how do you set the rent prices? How do you pull comps? And where do you market them? And that's just kind of a general idea of how they set prices. You can see their train of thinking. Well, if they don't respond pretty quickly, the landlord sets that. That may not necessarily be the guy you want to work with or gal. Why is that? Well, that landlord might be living in Florida on the beach, and he might not know what Oklahoma City rent is. A house in Oklahoma City might yield more rent. But who would know this more than anyone else? A property manager. That's why I always get texts from bankers, which is awesome because I love bankers. They constantly ask me what's rent going in that area. Even Section 8 has called me and asked me what rents were in that area. I thought that was fascinating. Like I'm somebody special. I guess I am. Well, only reason why I'm special is because I'm in the grind renting out property. And another thing that you need to be aware of too, if the prices are too high, it would hurt your vacancy rate. You don't want to do that. Another question, number 3, what types of properties do you manage? Do you manage commercial? Do you only do residential? Do you do multifamily? How many? Do you do apartments only? The apartment game is a little bit different than the single family game. Not that much different. I have a 14-unit apartment building. We treat it like a giant single family. But let me tell you, we also have some commercial office space. It's a totally different animal. And some realtors, if they run commercial and single family, I'd be aware of that. Why? Because the more money on the commercial side, they usually lock it in a 3-year to 5-year lease or 10-year lease. They make a lot more money. They're going to be a lot distracted with the commercial property than they would for the single family guy. Now, this also applies to the multifamily guy. Multifamily tends to take a lot more work. There's a lot more intricate moving parts, and it just seems like it's a lot more time consuming. Usually single family, they're done and gone. Multifamily, they're transitional, they're moving in and out, they're not staying longer. Right now, millennials, depends on where the property at. You guys get the gist of it, but find out what their specialty is, or try to ask that question. What do they specialize in? Number 4, can you explain that fair housing law? Listen, you can find out real fast if they're educated. Do they know the laws? And have them explain them to you, because you, Mr. Investor Rookie, you don't want to get stung where this savvy property manager, I want to say savvy, sketchy property manager, explains that this is the new law and you need to do that. Let me give you an example. I just did a fire inspection at our building. The dude shows up, and fire inspector, you got to do this every year. It's madness. I'm trusting this guy to evaluate all, not the real inspector from the city. I know I have to change my fire extinguishers out every year. So it's a law in Oklahoma City. I got to do it. I got to call this company up. They got to drive the F over here, or I got to bring the fire extinguisher to them, and they got to test it. And then they tag it. Well, he was telling me a story that the fire marshal, the nationwide fire marshal, passed a law that you cannot use this specific tank for its outdated tank. And I didn't get into the particulars with this guy, but think about it. If he was sketchy, he could say, "Hey, the law said you can't no longer use this type of fire extinguisher. You need to buy a new one." And you're desperate. You don't want to get a $10,000 fine for not having the proper fire extinguisher and or tag properly. So you're saying, "Okay, buddy, give me a new one." That's your property manager. He could do the same thing. To abide by the law, your fiduciary, you hear me, can scare you. Know the laws. Does he know the laws? Can he explain them to you? Because one day you'll be on the beach and you're not going to understand what this dude's saying, and you need to understand if he can educate you. Also ask him, and this is what I like, do you invest in the market as well? Do you own real estate property yourself? And if so, how many? There's a great property manager friend of mine, manages about 300 units, and he has 100 units himself, and he manages 200 units on the side or as a company, and he's got a full staff. Ask them if they're really investing money. If they're investing money in the game, you probably should as well. Ask them what your fees are. Are they percentage basis? Calls? Do you charge per call? How much do the fees work? When do you pay them? How does it work? Who gets the late fee? I heard a property management company the other day that they take all the late fees. Well, do you think it's in their best interest for their tenants that they're managing to pay on time? No. Another question I mentioned earlier, how do they market? What signs do they use? Do they have metal signs? Do they have plastic signs? I wouldn't come out and say that, but just ask them the question, how do you market your rentals? And tell me more about them. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to stop there. Part 1 on how to hire a property manager. We got more questions coming up in the next episode. Tune in and come back, and I will juice it up even more for you. My name is Stephen VanCauwenbergh, the Savvy Landlord, and I love you. And whatever you need to do, whatever it is, go buy assets today.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at SavvyRadioShow.com. Connect on Twitter at LandlordBook and always be buying assets.